Oh yeah, that one there is perfect. Look at the color on that. Some nice berry flavors in there. That will make some amazing jelly. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a fantastic day. It is Sunday, August 11th, another brutally hot summer day here in South Georgia, and I'll be honest, I'm not feeling super rambunctious to get out there and sweat it out in the garden. So I figured on today's video we'd do a little figging around. I'm going to tell you why this fig season, or this year in the fig orchard, has been quite different than previous years, and then we're going to walk around and see some of these delicious varieties that we have ripe on the trees right now. So if you grow figs for long enough, especially if you're growing a bunch of different varieties, you'll notice that every year is a little bit different, just depending on the weather you're getting, depending on how hot and humid it is that year or how much rainfall you're getting that year. And so this year, although it feels pretty nasty out here today, our weather hasn't been that bad. We did have a pretty dry spell in June, a couple days where it was just brutally hot for June. But overall, I don't feel like it's been as hot as it normally is down here in the summer. And we've had plenty of rain the last month and a half. Been getting rain at least every couple days. Sometimes we'll go a week and get a shower every afternoon. So moisture has been abundant. So let's walk around the orchard a little bit, and I'll tell you about and show you how things are a little bit different this year given the weather conditions we're dealing with here in the summer of 2024. So one of the things we've noticed this year, which is something I mentioned on a previous fig video, is that a lot of our varieties are making larger figs this year. It isn't happening on every single variety, but many of the varieties are giving us larger figs than they normally do. So these Mary Lane honey figs here are a perfect example of that. These are usually just average size figs, what I would call medium size fig. But this year, the ones we're getting nice and ripe on here are kind of on the verge of what I call a large fig. So in past years, my Mary Lane figs would be about the size of, say, this LSU Tiger fig that hasn't quite ripened yet. But you can see they're a decent bit bigger this year, especially if we compare this one right here. So getting a good bit more size on a lot of the varieties we're growing this year, almost double the size that they normally are. And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that maybe we've got more rain this year than we have in the past. I haven't looked at any historical data, but it just feels like we've got more ground moisture now than we usually have this time of year in August. Now, sometimes with these honey figs like this, if you get too much moisture, it can kind of compromise the flavor a little bit, water it down a little bit. But the Mary Lane figs I've been eating so far, you can see that characteristic honey fig color on the inside there. These I've been eating so far are really, really good. They don't taste watered down at all. Now, another thing that's different this year that I also mentioned on a previous video was that some of our varieties have a lighter skin color this year. So it's not happening on a ton of different varieties, just a few, but these improved Celeste figs here are a good bit lighter than they normally are. Now that one's still got a few more days to ripen, but it's already started to hang there. Usually those are a good bit darker than that one there. And as I told you before, I really can't explain the skin color being different. I don't think that's moisture related, because back in June when it was really hot and dry around here, we had improved Celeste figs ripening and they were lighter as well. Now, the third thing I've noticed that's been quite different this year is that we've had more continual production on a lot of our varieties. So we've got some fig varieties like the improved Celeste, like Brown Turkey, LSU Gold, LSU Tiger, that mature very early. They're the first varieties that give us figs. We've got other varieties that mature more mid-season, and then we've got some varieties that are more later in the year, like that VDB fig behind me. I'll show you that one in a minute. Just now starting to get some ripe figs on it. So for the varieties that give us the earliest production, we usually end up getting several crops or rounds of fig production throughout the summer months and on into fall. Some varieties may be 2 crops of figs, some may be 3 crops of figs. Just varies a little bit with variety, but it comes and goes. So we'll get a flush of fig production. The trees will just kind of hang out for a minute. Then we'll get another flush of production, and sometimes even a third flush of production. This year has been different though. The production has been a lot more continual. There hasn't been as much of a distinct break in production on some of these varieties. So let's use this LSU Tiger tree here as an example. It's not necessarily loaded up with figs right now, but we do have a few on there, and this one has never quit. Now, I think it's going to give us one more good round of production just based on the amount of new growth I'm seeing there, but it never shut down like it normally does, say, after that first round of production. Still been getting a few figs off of it every other day or so, still enjoying a lot of these delicious LSU Tiger figs. So the production this year has been a lot more continuous for many of the varieties we have out here. Not all of them, but a lot of them have been showing that continuous production as opposed to what we've seen in past years where it was kind of fig production, pause, fig production, pause, and then usually one more round of fig production. And then the fourth thing I've noticed that's different this year is that the rust hasn't been near as bad. Now we're still getting rust. You can see some rusty leaves on that LSU Tiger tree I showed you earlier. You can see this Salem dark tree that's almost bare because all the leaves have gotten rust and fallen off. It should put on some more leaves pretty soon. So we're still getting a little bit of rust, but in general, our trees have a lot more green leaves on them this time of year than they normally do. Especially when we look at this part of the orchard where we have a lot of 1 to 2 year old trees. These are all looking really, really great and growing super fast. And so if we think about this, having less rust this year probably explains that continual production that I mentioned earlier. So the reason the production would kind of go in phases in past years was due to that complete defoliation like I showed you with that Salem dark tree earlier. But that has only happened on a few of our trees this year. With the rust being not quite as significant this year, a lot of our trees haven't lost all their leaves. They've kept a few green leaves. They've continued to grow all throughout the summer. New growth means new figs. Even though it might not be a ton of new figs, we're still getting them. That's why we're getting continual production as opposed to those distinct production windows we've seen in the past. So then the next obvious question would be, why is the rust not as bad this year? Now on a previous fig video about a month or so ago, we got a comment from the Millennial Gardener, another YouTuber. Some of you are probably familiar with him. I think he's up in coastal North Carolina. I think that's right. Anyway, he commented and said that rust is due to dry or drought conditions outside. And I replied back and said, I'll buy that a little bit, but we've got all our trees on irrigation. They all get plenty of water and we still get rust. Heck, I even get rust sometimes on these baby trees that I'm propagating in the greenhouse. Here's a LSU Tiger tree that needs to be stepped up to a larger pot. You can see rust pretty good on 2 of those leaves there. Not going to hurt this thing at all, but it goes to show you we still get rust even in a greenhouse situation where we're watering these trees at least every day, sometimes twice a day. So I don't think we can blame it completely on dry conditions. But dry conditions do seem to make it a lot worse. Seems like the rust was a lot worse in June when it was really dry around here compared to right now when we've been getting a lot more rain. So ground moisture definitely plays a part in the rust equation, but I think fertility can explain a lot of this as well. So in past years, I've always fertilized my fig trees a little bit in the summer months, mainly via injecting the AgriThrive through our drip system. But this year was the first time I've ever did a big granular fertilization in the middle of summer. I think it was right at the end of June. Before we started getting all this rain, we fertilized all our trees with a pretty healthy dose of the Coop Grow around the base of the trees. Now it obviously didn't stop rust on all the trees because like I showed you earlier, we do have a few bare trees out here right now. But I think given that extra fertility at the end of June gave our trees the boost they needed to fight through the rust a little more. Much like we've shown you many times in our vegetable garden, you can fertilize plants enough to kind of push them through some disease pressure, and I think that's what we've done here in the fig orchard. We've given these plants kind of an extra boost, or given these trees kind of an extra boost so they can fight through some of that rust pressure and keep growing. So that midsummer fertilization is definitely something I'm going to be doing again in future years, and I may even give mine one more round, say here maybe the end of August. I don't know if it will be quite as heavy as that June fertilization, but I'm thinking about doing it one more time, just getting some extra growth there in the fall months before these trees go dormant. Now let's walk around and let me show you some of these later producing varieties that are starting to give us some delicious figs right now. With all the rain we've been having, it's been spoiling a lot of our figs, especially the honey and sugar figs. They seem to be a lot more prone to split. When we get a lot of rain, they'll split open a little bit and kind of sour before they even ripen. I've noticed it doesn't happen near as much on the berry figs for whatever reason. It happens a lot more on the sugar and honey figs. So the first one I'll show you here is Violette de Bordeaux. Now this one takes some patience. It will start forming figs often when a lot of these early varieties start forming figs, but they take a long time to ripen. They are certainly worth it, and this is a very renowned variety in the fig community because it has such distinct berry flavor on it. Looks like we had a couple nice dark purple ones there. Let me show you what the inside looks like. So this isn't a huge fig by any means, but it's one of the more tasty figs we have in our orchard. That red color there, when you see that, that usually means you got some really nice tart berry flavors going on. Here's another berry fig that hasn't been splitting near as bad as a lot of our honey and sugar figs have. This Italian 258 variety. And one way to know these things are ripe, you see that sap kind of oozing out of that fig there. That means it's good to go. Another delicious berry fig we've got producing right now is this LSU Scots Black, and this tree is loaded. For whatever reason, this one takes a lot longer than many of the other LSU varieties. Probably the latest LSU variety to ripen as far as the ones we have in our orchard. So I don't know if this one will be a great one for northern climates because it takes so long, but if you live in the south, this is one you need to be growing. So we can see the birds got into that one right there, but I think we've got a nice one right there. Let's see how that one looks. Oh yeah, that one there is perfect. Look at the color on that. Some nice berry flavors in there. That will make some amazing jelly. So a lot of these berry fig varieties, especially the more rare or specialty varieties, can be a little slower to grow in the beginning, and it can take them longer to produce. That's not the case with LSU Scots Black. We got figs on this one in the first year last year and are getting a ton of figs off of it this year. Here's another variety I've been waiting to show y'all. Now, when I received cuttings for this variety, I think it was last year, a friend sent them to me and they were called Unknown Atlanta figs. Supposedly this is an heirloom variety that was discovered in Atlanta. I guess it does really well in the ground there. And I've been pretty impressed by this one. Now, this tree here doesn't have any ripe figs on it right now, but its partner right beside it does. Looks like we've got a nice one in there. Let me grab that one and show it to you. So of all the varieties that me and the boys have got to try for the first time this year in our orchard, this Atlanta fig has been one of our favorites. Kind of looks like a normal sugar fig, but if you open it up and give it a taste, it's got all these really nice kind of fruity notes to it. Even looks like a sugar fig on the inside, but a lot of complex flavors going on with these. Don't have these on the website yet because those trees are still young, but maybe we'll have a few come next spring so some of you can give this one a try. Now, I mentioned earlier we lost a lot of figs due to all the rain, especially due to Tropical Storm Debbie. This GE Neri tree right here was just absolutely loaded. Then that tropical storm came along and a lot of these blew up on me. We can see even had 2 more blow up right there. But now the rain has calmed down a little bit, these aren't blowing up near as bad, and we're actually able to enjoy quite a few of these. Got a nice little trio right there of some massive figs. So these sugar figs here are almost as big as a tennis ball. They are huge and really, really tasty. So that's just kind of a small sample size of what we got ripening in the orchard. At the moment, we could spend all day out here if we wanted to, but I wanted to show you a few of those specific varieties that we've been eating lately. And over the next few weeks, we'll be adding a lot more trees to our website from our summer propagation efforts. I think by the time this video airs, we'll have a decent amount of these GE Neri trees, those big ones I showed you earlier, on the website. Got quite a few of these. They've got a nice root ball on them and are ready to ship. So check those out, and if you want to see more delicious fig varieties from earlier in the season and learn how we make our wonderful fig jam or fig jelly, watch this video right here. We'll break down the process really simple and easy. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.